Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. My guest today is Andy Allan, my cousin and a good friend of mine. For part one of this two-part conversation, we reflect on our band days in New York's finest taxi service, the creative process, Andy's infamous car wash video, academic pursuits, the ins and outs of navigating job opportunities, Andy's time playing amateur rugby, his love of competition, and the camaraderie that comes with the sport. We also talk extensively around the psychological aspects of motivation, functional fitness, and Andy's world record pursuits. As we wrap up this first part of the conversation, we talk about the benefits of cold water, establishing healthy sleep routine, and the Wim Hof breathing method. In part two, we'll dive deeper into my own journey with quitting alcohol, nutrition, training, and Andy's dynamic food list. This conversation was extremely transformative for me. I hope you enjoy it just as much as I did. There is a lot in here, and my life has changed significantly since this episode was recorded. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with the wonderful Andy Allan.
Andy, how are we doing?
I'm good, mate. Thanks.
Thanks for doing this. I know you felt I had to convince you to do this because, in your own words, you said, "Well, I'm just a jack of all trades," and you didn't feel like you had that much to share. But I still wanted to pick your brain, so
yeah,
thanks for coming and doing this.
I definitely want to do a disclaimer on this and say I am more of a jack of all trades, which will definitely it will become clear as we talk about different subjects, and then I'm like, well, my expertise ends there.
Yeah.
I can. I'm just happy to support your sort of podcast to start with, and I've never shied away from a bit of an opportunity to do something a bit different. So here we go.
Awesome. I thought it would be a good place to start. Would be how we know each other. Obviously, we are related.
We are
cousins, and like how we sort of became mates with doing New York's finest taxi service. So for anyone listening, that was a band.
Yeah.
Do you remember how that came about?
Yeah. So I'm going to take it back a little bit of a step. So you were a very annoying cousin. You would come into the room at a family gathering and be very shy and subdued, and then all of a sudden, the phrase "familiarity breeds contempt" is ideal for how you were as a child, which was all of a sudden you would become very loud, and yeah. So, but obviously, we grew up in different age groups,
yeah,
and then. Me and Phil were in a band with Craig, who remained in New York's finest taxi service eventually. But I was in a band with another guy who was a drummer, good drummer, and we had a good experience there. But I was always aware that you had musical talent, as I'd heard about the whole, background on the sort of band thing, the potential boy band type stuff, but the kind of McFly type approach or whatever.
Yeah.
And I knew that you were talented, but with me being the lead guitarist and the only thing I could possibly offer to that, to anybody, and Phil being the rhythm guitarist and singer, I didn't ever fit you in as a drummer. But then through I can't remember how it came around, but through understanding.
Yeah, Darren Gandhi.
Oh, right, okay, right, spot on.
I remember we were in the Globe.
Right.
And we were out for a drink.
Right.
And then you must have been talking to him, and then he said, "Oh, Jason play drums," or I can't remember. That's how it came about. And then you're like, "Can you play drums?" And I was like, "Well, not really, but yeah."
Well, yeah, you're not really, but yeah, playing drums was, and then realizing how good actually you were on the drums, probably met about my level on the guitar. So when people said, "Do you play guitar?" and I used to be like, "Yeah, just a bit."
Yeah,
I should have probably responded with, "Kind of, but no." And so
I think you're doing yourself a disservice there, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I think I had to work really hard.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like the dirt cow of playing drums. Like, just if I could just work hard and just like try really hard, then I kind of get through it. But it never felt like natural like a guitar does.
Yeah.
And that was always the challenge. Was always going to be the challenge with me being a drummer.
The thing is, when we were at band practice, I always do clearly remember when we were trying to work something out guitar-wise, and I will give myself credit for being like creative with the guitar. You know, I could work stuff out, original stuff that we could run with. But when it came to, right, here's someone playing a bass line in a certain key, I was kind of lost about what to do with that. I could do some random stuff, and sometimes it would sound good. But when you came off the drums to pick the guitar up and do it, you'd like, I genuinely just felt so insignificant in terms of my ability. But I think it just worked dead good. Yeah, I absolutely loved it.
It's great.
Absolutely loved every moment of what we did. Mainly the practice. I genuinely think like being able to be creative in a moment and build up on, you know, the idea that someone has and work towards something that, you know, is greater than the sum of its parts kind of thing was really enjoyable. Playing it live there was definitely some like satisfaction there, but because we were original band in a small town, we were never gonna get, you know, like much interest. It's fine, you know, but I do look back, especially at the stuff that we recorded. Again, the recording sessions was really, really enjoyable.
Yeah.
But them sort of 4 tunes that we recorded, I listened to them like probably every sort of few months, and I'm just like, I'm so happy we recorded.
Have we got them on live still? Are they on?
No, yeah, sorry, they are on SoundCloud. Yeah,
I put a link.
Plug it. Yeah. But yeah, I just you know, I'm proud that we recorded some music and it's out there and it's there forever. And at some point, I can look back and maybe play it to someone and they might be like, that was a really good tune, you know. But yeah, good times.
I loved it.
Yeah,
I thought you know, it was I was thinking about it earlier and I felt like I just like the connection and the creativity. I think, you know, it wasn't like, I just loved showing, like turning up and then like, and just like for like 3.5, maybe 4 hours, like messing about.
Yeah.
And just like I remember most of the time I felt like I was just dicking about and laughing. Like, but like in a good way. Do you know what I mean? I just remember like, obviously we did the creative thing as well. But I think like if anyone was listening and they was thinking about getting into a band, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you're not like totally confident. Like I think just that creative thing. I think being the ability to be creative and sort of get out of your ego is better than skill or talent.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, just the right sort of behaviours and attitude to it will get you so much further. And it is teamwork. You know, you are trying to create something together, and you've got to have the right dynamic. And me and my brother Phil, and you as our cousin, and then Craig, who, you know, I knew from college, and then obviously he was in our previous band. It was just so much fun. But what I would say is that I really enjoyed the sessions after a band session. So we would sometimes do band practice, and we would come away, and we were like, why didn't that click? And it's crazy. Like, you don't know what it is. You can never put your finger on it. Sometimes you might maybe blame someone a little bit. Like, maybe something wasn't sounding quite right from someone. But in general, you could never put your finger on it.
I felt like I'd always blame myself.
Yeah.
Because it was the drums.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like it's quite egotistical maybe. But I would feel like if I was having an off day, I feel like if you're a guitarist, you can get away with an off day. If you're the drummer, everyone looks at you as soon as you
probably a good point, because with the drums you have to be on beat. With the guitar, you do something a bit random or shit, you can pass it off as, oh well, you know, I'm not holding the band together with this rhythm. You know, I can literally do what I want. Like, so amazing, mate. I love them times. Me and Phil have talked about like maybe doing something again, but I'd probably only be interested in literally getting together as a band practice, maybe trying to be creative, not really bothered about any kind of, you know, going out there and gigging scene anymore, you know.
Was it like 10 years ago now?
I don't know.
I'm trying to think what year it was.
God, yeah. If it was 10 years ago, then no, because I remember my son, Alfie, who's 10, well, 10 and a half, he wandered in a couple of times. So he must have been at least 2 or 3. So maybe 7 or 8 years ago, yeah.
Getting there, though.
Yeah.
Getting there, though, yeah.
Yeah.
What about, what tips would we have for anyone that was thinking about getting a band together?
I think you need to... I remember when I was trying to get a band together, I actually created a Facebook group called I Want a Band. And the intention was that anyone that I knew who had musical talent, I added them to it. And I basically said, I want a band. And I remember recording some riffs. You know, I was into Muse at the time, so it was probably very Muse type riffs.
Yeah.
And I put it on there and I was like, right, if anyone's interested in putting something to this, let's get together. And it just so happened that's how it started with me and Craig, right? Obviously, he turned out to be the bassist again, a very accomplished guitarist, Craig. But my advice would be, in what I did was keep persevering. You know, you might not get the right people, the right vibes, or you know, it might just not work. But just start off with just getting in someone's bedroom and start, you know, putting your guitar with their bass or their drums and just start working something out, because that will start sparking the magic for being interested in doing something like going forward, you know. And also, don't be ashamed of the shit stuff that you will do in early stages. It's like a huge learning process. I look at people like the Arctic Monkeys, who I think Alex Turner, when you know, the first album came out, I think he was 17, 18 kind of thing. And I'm amazed about the talent at that stage.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of bands who have been around the block for a long time, and then eventually something clicks. You know, that you know, they work something out, and maybe a new member or whatever it might be. So yeah, my advice would be, don't be deterred by perseverance. Don't be deterred by any setbacks. Don't be deterred by the lack of interest from other people. There are people out there who want to get involved. Yeah,
I think it's if you've got that like hustle in you, to be, you know, there's always someone who's the leader in there. And I think I've found in the past, usually just by getting one other person, it starts to happen. So like with Dig a Pony, I put an advert on joinmyband.com.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it was a new, like it hadn't been around that long now. Now it's...
Maybe I was onto something with I Want a Band.
Yeah, exactly. And I found James on there, who was the bass player in Dig a Pony, and then standard, he was like, "Have you got a drummer?" And I was like, "No." And then he was like, "Well, I know a drummer." And then I knew Lawrence, and then that was it. So I think just getting like another person who's like maybe not in your main group, then they always like sort of, it's like networking, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, I think just get out there and hustle and find people, and don't be ashamed to. Don't feel like you're gonna look like a dickhead.
No, and totally don't regret any steps that you go through as you go through it. Just maybe don't record them early moments, you know.
Or record them.
Record it
and just own it.
Yeah.
Do you still play?
The only time I pick up my guitar, I'm gutted about this. I sold all of our electric, all of our gear, you know, the PA system. Yeah. The only time I pick it up is when kids are in the bath and they're settled in the bath, and I'll think, right, now's a good time. I'll go grab the guitar, pull it up next to, you know, where the kids are having a bath, and I'll start playing some stuff. And to be honest, you know, I'll do some of our stuff, you know, just like some of the nice chords and stuff we had, but there's a few chord structures that I'm working around, and I always think that if I went back to ever playing, that I'd be very interested in doing that. The thing with me, I don't know if this is some kind of trait in me in general, is I was only ever interested in sitting down and putting stuff together if I knew it was going to move on to something bigger. And by bigger, I don't mean anything massive. I just mean playing in a band. So on a Sunday, after probably a night out on a Saturday, when I'm thinking probably I'm sort of early 20s at this point, I would pick my guitar up on a Sunday and I would play for 8 or 9 hours all day. Just like literally just play as much as I could. Electric guitar. The electric guitar just sounds amazing compared to an acoustic, especially when you're into stuff like big riffs and things like that. And I remember always thinking, I can't just do this based on this. I need to be able to put this to something that is going to be creative and work with other people and actually create a song out of it, which is why I'm really proud of what, as I've said, I'm proud of what we created. So now to know that, I feel like I know that I'll never be in a band again. So to pick up the guitar is literally just for me and doing something nice for the kids and showing, I don't know, being able to play a musical instrument might inspire them to play a musical instrument.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at. So I don't have a huge drive anymore to be like, I need to get as good as I can.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I think I'm similar as well because I don't really play anymore.
Right. Okay.
And yeah, it's all down to your motivation, isn't it? And sometimes I really wish I had that just kind of instinct to just pick it up and just play and just. But as I got sort of into my late 20s and early 30s, it was like, I don't know, I needed a goal. I needed like a band, or I needed a reason to play it.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll regret it one day. But it's tough on. There's only so much time.
Do you know, interestingly, being in a band ruined my love for my favourite bands in a very strange way. Because I kind of was more focused on what we could create. And when I listened to stuff like, let's say, Pavement, Radiohead and things like that, I kind of always compared what we could maybe do to what they're music. So I stopped listening to music for just the love of music and the like ambience and stuff that it brings. I kind of listened to it more like, oh, I wonder how we could compare to that, or like what I could do with.
That's interesting.
And when and now I've totally gone back to just loving music all the time, appreciating for what it is. Yeah, like I say, putting on Dirge. Yeah, the Shakes Are Back, which are the couple of tunes that we did every now and again. Kind of, the recording quality was as good as what we paid for, but it's really, really good to listen back to that stuff. Yeah,
at the time it sounded like really good. I mean, it was obviously still, a little bit, wasn't like a proper professional. But I think now it will probably sound a bit dated. Yeah. Because of all like the studio stuff, exactly. It's come on so much.
Yeah.
And I feel like so many people are just doing stuff at home now, and like the effects and stuff and everything that you get within those
just within some
doors.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was good, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. Next, I want to talk about the car wash video. For those that don't know, and remind me. I haven't watched it in years. Is it still on YouTube?
So the car wash video is on YouTube, and unlike many things that I'm sure I wouldn't like you to share on this podcast, I am actually, I love it. I'm proud of it, and I think people should do stuff that's out there. So it's quite funny when I do have a managerial role now, and the last couple of jobs I've had have been in a managerial sort of setting. And I have had people who've sort of come to me and said, car wash video, how do you feel about that now? Like, you do. And I'm like, I love it. I'm not embarrassed about it at all. I think it's absolutely brilliant. If I had the chance to do it again, in an original setting, then I would do it. So the car wash video, obviously, for those that don't know, please click on the link, you'll soon know. But I'll tell you the background, because there's a little bit of a semi-interesting story leading up to the car wash. So my brother Phil had the idea of doing a car wash of us guys, and, we played for Ulverston Rugby, so quite ironic to get dressed up in bikinis and stuff and go and wash a car somewhere randomly and video it and put some music to it. So Phil had this idea, and we always said, oh yeah, that'd be brilliant, let's do it. And we never ever got round to it. And then we'd been out on a Saturday night, and the next day was a Super Sunday because it was bank holiday. So I remember me and Phil lived together at my dad's at that point, And Phil just came in my room in the morning after this Saturday night out, and he goes, rough as hell. Opened the door and was like, "Do you want to do the car wash video?" and I just turned to him and I was like, "Yeah, go on then." So anyway, we gathered some troops together, Joey Webber being one of them, who was obviously on the podcast. So we got our bikinis. We all jumped in our Vauxhall Corsa. I drove. I'm not proud of this, and I can openly say this because I don't know if I was over the limit. But having been out the night before and this being in the morning, I probably was in the balance. Yeah, exactly. So we're in our bikinis driving down towards the Texaco car wash. Texaco, it's not Texaco now, but Texaco car wash by Booths. And as I'm driving down, I've got my big brother Phil, who's 6'6", bald guy, in the passenger seat in a bikini. I'm in a mankini, and I've got 3 guys in the back in bikinis as well.
Where did you get the
attire? Wags, wives and girlfriends.
Okay, yeah.
And I had a mankini anyway. Anyway, driving down, and a police car pulls up. Well, I say pulls up behind me, like he's driving behind me and very closely. And I'm looking in the mirror, the rearview mirror, and I'm thinking that I feel like he's following me. And feels like, oh, it's fine, don't worry. Took a couple of turns, followed us. We eventually got down to the garage where we were going to do the car wash, and there was 2 of our mates ready with the cameras. And I was like, right, this police car is following us. I can't just turn into the car wash and start doing a car wash video. These guys got to be like, breathalyze all of them immediately.
Yeah.
So I pulled down by just a different sort of shop area, and the guy put his lights on, and I stopped. He pulled up next to me, and I have never been as nervous in my life. My tongue and my mouth went totally dry. Like I couldn't speak barely. And he pulled up next to me and he goes, "You know, you've got a brake light out, don't you?" And I'm just like, no, sorry. And all that is going through my head is he's gonna breathalyze me. Well, first I've got a 6'6" bald guy sat next to me in a bikini, and I'm in a mankini. He hasn't even looked in the back, and I'm just thinking, if he
was he like, had he caught this? Was he smirking?
No, he wasn't smirking. He had seen my brother, but I guess he just thought, what the hell is going on?
Wasn't impressed.
And all I could think of was, he's going to breathalyze me. I'm going to get sent to Barrow Police Station in a mankini, and it's going to be in the paper, car full of men in bikini, whatever. So anyway, absolutely shit myself. He ended up driving off, and Phil looked at me and he was like, "Are you all right?" And I looked at him, opened my mouth, I was like, I couldn't talk. And he was like, "Just take a minute. I think I had a bit of water, a drink of water." And then he was like, "Do you still want to do it?" I was like, "Come on, let's do it." So we spun round, went into the car wash, and we performed the Ulverston car wash, which at the time was very popular before proper viral videos. I'm pretty convinced that maybe if we delayed it by 2 or 3 years, then we'd have the actual, maybe it would have gone a bit wider. But, by then, lots of people were doing lots of crazy stuff, so maybe not. No, not too much. But yeah, loved it. Yeah.
What were the cameras that you used? Did they have like half decent cameras or?
No, and you can tell by the quality of the video. Yeah, you can tell it was set back a little bit, just like some SLRs that had, video capability or whatever.
Yeah. What year was that?
Oh God, yeah, we are talking 15 years ago. That would take me to, probably about 15 years ago. So a long time.
2008.
Yeah. But still proud of it. So proud of it, even as in a respectable job that I am now, I am
100%. I think you can't take yourself too seriously.
No.
I think it's really important.
Yeah.
And, me and Joey we talked about this on the podcast.
Yeah.
Just about the importance of just being stupid.
Yeah, daft.
Silly. Daft. That's what I like. Yeah, daft is like a good word for it. Just being daft. Not taking yourself too seriously. And you should, that's it. And I think, you just get something from it, don't you? Of just doing ridiculously stupid things. And I think you have certain mates, obviously yours being like your brother, and like that get that type of humor.
Yeah.
Others that you maybe not would have that crack with, perhaps. But
for me, as long as you're not harming anyone, you're not pissing anyone off, you're not disrespecting anyone or whatever. Just my own reputation. Yeah, exactly.
All right, we'll get more serious now. Let's talk about how many degrees have you got?
3 degrees. Thank you for bringing that on. Yeah. I do, but if I backtrack a little bit, then I want to be clear that when I was at sixth form, and I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life, so I went to sixth form, and I ended up getting a D, an E, and a D, which stands for dead. So, even if I wanted to go to university in the typical sense of, doing college, getting really good grades, going to uni, that was never going to happen for me. I kind of messed about at college, really. Like, me and Joey messed about. He was actually more, obviously, he's a doctor. So,
yeah.
He was intelligent enough to mess about and do well. Yeah. I was more mess about and not do too good. But, what happened was I went into sort of the apprenticeship route. It's served me really well. Got an electrical engineering degree when I was off the back of my apprenticeship, which was an electrical apprenticeship. I then got into a role that was more continuous improvement stuff, business improvement, and that resulted in me being involved in a lot of management meetings that I would be sat there thinking, what are they talking about? And I was like, I need to understand this stuff. So I asked the company, Centrica at the time, if I could do a business management degree. So I did. And that definitely served me well. And then later on in a different business, I was the apprenticeship program manager, and there was a lot of learning and development stuff. And I thought, to be able to do a good job, I can't just use my background. I need to actually learn what I'm meant to be doing. So I did a learning and development degree as well. And but that is absolutely the last bit of proper education I'm going to do. I'm happy to do any courses, courses, training, whatever it is. But it's too intensive, and 3 kids and an intensive job. I've got no headspace right now. So, but what I will say is this definitely lends itself to the description of me being a jack of all trades. Because whereas if I've mentioned Joey 3 times now, but Joey has stuck to his track and become a doctor, the only doctor in the world of equanimity. I've done some low-level degrees, level 5, so it's not like even honours, in 3 different areas.
Yeah.
But I felt like I needed them at the time to get me up to speed with where I need to be, and I feel like I certainly do not know everything I need to know, because I'll only learn that from experience. But I definitely don't need any more qualifications with it. So yeah,
that's cool. It's like, I didn't actually know that you had 3 degrees.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's a good approach, isn't it? Because there's so many people who will struggle academically.
Yeah.
That classroom thing, that typical lads usually, because of all the energy they've got and everything, and then sort of I think it's a good approach. And around here there is quite a lot of places you can go. There's the Yard or and all those places that are really good like that. I totally have never been, I always worked for small companies and stuff like that, so it was never an option to do that. Did you what was the split like? Did you have to do all your uni work outside of worked hours, or were you able to do it and get paid at the same time?
So this is why I genuinely recommend an apprenticeship to anybody, really. I was paid through my degrees, and when you do a degree, typically you're given 20% of your working life So let's say 1 day a week, you're allowed to commit totally to your studies or whatever you need to do. It worked out really well for me.
Right.
You just got to balance it. You don't take the piss, basically. So like sometimes you'd sort of forget about your degree for a while and just literally work. And then other times you would sort of say, you know, I need to, this coming up and I need a couple of days. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's definitely something I want to say though with my learnings from having done the degrees and having recruited apprentices and other staff and everybody that I've worked with. I genuinely am not interested in the future recruiting anyone with a particular degree or level. I would totally prefer to choose somebody who's got the right attitude and behaviours. That means so much more. People and balance and teamwork and everything is so much more important than any qualification. I am fortunate I do have these qualifications behind me because I don't doubt that it has helped me, but I hope in the future there's more of a recognition that someone who's done sport and really appreciated winning and losing and teamwork, I really hope that at some point in the future we get to a point where, you know, having the right results at GCSE and A levels is not the only thing that drives who should get a certain role. You know?
I suppose it's hard, isn't it? Because I 100% agree with you. Because when I've applied for jobs, I've struggled not having a degree. But then you look at the other side of it, and the recruitment side, it's a really good way of filtering out because it's labour intensive to sit down with people, isn't it? So if you get like 100 applicants, and in like a week you go, which ones have got degrees, and sift it all off. But I think, 100% agree with you. It's recruitment is, obviously I've had a business and worked in managerial roles and stuff. Like it's hard. Yeah, really. I've never been the best recruiter. You sit down with someone and think they're amazing. Just getting that totally wrong.
Yeah.
I've been lucky and had a few which were like really spot on. But I think it's a real skill, and obviously, you would have done part of that as your development,
learner development stuff. Yeah.
So I imagine that was quite useful.
Interestingly, obviously, when you go in for an interview, you have to show the best version of yourself, which might not be the absolute most natural version of yourself. But what I am happy about is that the roles that I've been in and then eventually left, I have always had like decent feedback about that I did do a good job in that role. So that makes me think that when I have been in that interview situation, I haven't just what you've just said. Someone might have liked you and got a job, and then you're like, oh, they weren't the best person.
Yeah.
I am proud that I've managed to be someone that has actually worked out to be a good option for whoever's recruiting me. But that also your references. Yeah. If you've done a good job, you're gonna, when them references get called up, you're gonna be able to move on to other things. Yeah. So I would definitely advise anyone to use references in the future, because they're probably it's character, isn't it? They'll talk about they won't say, oh, he's got a degree in this, he's got a degree in this, and these are the GCSEs he's got or whatever. Yeah. You're gonna say he was a bit of an arsehole, or he was selfish, or actually he was really good team player, ideal for what you need, going to let him go, but you've got a good option there, that kind of thing.
So true, the whole references there. But it's the first thing, if you're stuck on time, that'll go. You can sit down and spend the whole day interviewing or whatever, and then I've worked in those places where you just don't end up doing it. And some people, if you're you can benefit from that if you're the person that doesn't have that good references. Yeah. But I once heard someone talk about a good technique, which was ring the references and ask the reference to refer someone, like someone else that knows it.
Right, without actually saying who it is.
Like, so basically, I can't remember. So you would catch them out if my reference was you as a mate, and you were primed, and we don't have the same last name, they'd say, and could you tell us someone else that we could ring today.
Yeah.
So then you'd be like, gosh, you have to think of someone genuine, and then you ring them, then find out the third one.
Right, Swarm.
I've never used it, but I bet that'd be a good approach.
Yeah.
But I think my days of recruiting are pretty much over, thankfully.
You only recruit people to podcasts now.
Yeah, which is sorry,
mate.
No, you were sound. But having as we're recording, still not published. So I think once I start getting these episodes out there, it will hopefully network effects and stuff. And be able to have some, because at the moment I'm like, I'm doing this podcast and it's like this, but no one can see. I can't point them to an interview, so they know that I'm not like a Piers Morgan.
Yeah.
Or because they kind of, well, if you don't know me, like, oh, what's it going to be like?
Yeah.
Let's talk about rugby. You were Ulverston captain
for a period, yeah.
Yeah, I was just checking. You were. You don't play still, do you?
No.
And so, how do you feel about like your career, having like finished sort of playing full time? How do you feel like looking back? Is there anything you'd do differently?
So, I feel firstly very strange as a very amateur player to be talking about my rugby career.
You've had more of a rugby career than I have. So, but you know that it's all to do with your perspective. Like, see, I look at anyone who plays for Ulverston rugby or plays for Ulverston football as like so much, like, you know, because I never got to that level. You know, I liked his bit of five-a-side or whatever, but so but of course, once you get to, if you're doing amateur, then of course you're always looking above. So I think I think it's still like awesome. Do you know what I mean? Andy was captain.
Do you want to know something that's really interesting that you just reminded me of? Me, my dad, and my brother went to see at the Coronation Hall Jason Robinson. So you don't know who that is, do you?
Yeah, hang on. I know the name.
So Jason Robinson was a ex-rugby league player who turned to rugby union, and he played for England Rugby Union, and they won the World Cup when England Rugby Union won the World Cup, right? So he did a whatever it is, event at the Coronation Hall where he talks about his career, his background. Really interesting. But there was a point in the night where they asked questions, and I asked a question that I still don't know if it was a ridiculous question, but I'm really happy I asked it because it got a very interesting sort of answer. And basically, the pinnacle of my rugby career, as you would say, was when we won the Barton Townley final at Craven Park. It hadn't been won for 27 years. I was incredibly proud to captain it that year, co-captain it that year. We'd lost it in the final the year before, and also you may or may not remember, possibly won't remember because if you're not really affiliated with rugby, that at the time I had a huge.
I do remember.
All right, so you do remember.
I remember.
So I had
Phil had one as well.
No, it was bald. It was bald. It was still bald.
He had one for a bit though, didn't he?
No, so basically I had a huge hairdo out here, and there was one of like a couple of mates who also kind of grew it out a little bit. But I basically said that year I'm gonna keep growing it until we either get knocked out of this cup or we win it, because we'd lost it in the final the year before. So
was that the start of the season or when you lost?
Like I think it might have been the first game of that cup or something. I might have said.
It's been quite long.
Oh yeah, months and months.
Yeah.
So, we ended up winning it, and at the event, one of my friends sold what they called Andy Allan wigs to the crowd. So there was like 200 Andy Allan wigs in the crowd, which is ridiculous. It's just a small town thing. Yeah. But to win that game was absolutely incredible. The feeling, like we went back to the farmhouse in Ulverston which is just a small pub, well, quite a big pub. And we went in there, and all of the fans, or family and friends, should we say, but fans were in there, and we walked in, and it erupted, and we walked in like absolute heroes, and it was an incredible feeling.
Amazing.
Right. So, at the Coronation Hall with Jason Robinson, World Cup winner, and it was a very dramatic win in that World Cup final as well. He was talking about the win, and I asked the question, because he talked also about his early career, which was, schoolboy and going through the ranks and stuff like that. And I said, and I basically said to him, I gave that. It was a very long-winded question. I gave that context about winning with my brother. Like Phil was there, I was like, my brother, me and him, we won it with our teammates. I've never felt such a proud sporting moment. I said, you must have felt, being such a winner, you must have been in some winning teams when you were younger. And winning them games, at whatever level that might be, but certainly lesser than winning the World Cup final, how did that feel in them moments compared to winning the final? Like, is winning the World Cup final, like, unbelievably, like, 100 million times better than winning what I won? The Barton Townley final with Ulverston Rugby. And, I put it into context with what he might have won when he was younger. And it was really interesting because he said it was a step up, but not like something that pales all the rest into insignificance. Mm-hmm. He was like, them moments mean everything.
Yeah.
In that moment, at the level you're playing at, with your, especially with your mates, it feels absolutely incredible.
Uh-huh.
So it was kind of nice to think that what he experienced winning the World Cup final wasn't like astronomically away from how we felt in that moment. Do you know what I mean? Like we were not too far away from that, because it meant so much to us, and because we're a small town, playing with your mates who you played with for years. You're not just like moving into the England rugby team who now some players that you've known for a few months. It was nice to see. So yeah, perspective is everything.
Have you heard of hedonic adaptation?
No.
Or it's sometimes called the hedonic treadmill.
Right. Go on.
Yeah. So the hedonic treadmill is a bit like the first time you get your own place, little flat or whatever, and it's like a rented flat or something. It's amazing. And you're just like, you finally moved out of your dad's or your parents or whatever, and you've got your own, and that buzz is great. Once you've been there 3 months, 6 months, a year, or whatever, then you want to start buying. So then you move up, and then it's this hedonic adaptation or the hedonic treadmill of life, in which you're kind of always like seeking out the next thing, and it's all to do with like dopamine.
Yeah.
So dopamine spikes.
Yeah.
So it's with you talking about that, it's like, well, if you win the cup final with your mates at Raiders, then you've kind of got this dopamine peak or whatever, and then it's like, well, you're like, right, well, what's next? I'm gonna have to So to get that same buzz, you probably have to go up a league.
Yeah.
Because if you won that again the following year, it wouldn't have been the same buzz.
No.
It wouldn't have been as good as the first one. It might have been there, but not there.
Yeah.
So what do? You have to keep going up.
Yeah. No.
So you get this adaptation response where I guess in other words, it's leveling up. You level up. And it's just interesting because I'm like proper into the whole dopamine thing at the moment.
Right.
I don't know much about it.
Yeah, right.
And it's interesting. It's just everywhere, literally, like in your body, and it's like that. What goes up must come down, and it's with everything. Whether it's you have a little piece of chocolate or a beer, and then you get this little spike or whatever, and then but it always comes back down below baseline. So what goes up must come down.
Yeah.
And you've kind of thing is you've got to fill. They talk about it as like a wave pool, so it's like this. But of course, if you do too much up or too much down, water splashes out of the wave pool, and then you empty the water, and you don't have enough water to do the ups and downs.
That's interesting.
So you have to refill it.
Right.
How you refill it would be exercise, connection, family, friends,
normal routine.
Yeah, like getting plenty of sunlight, eating well, sleeping. That fills it back up.
Yeah.
But you can't fill it up by spiking it. You couldn't fill it up by, I think, doing something like winning, the rugby final or whatever. There's so many other things going into that would be filling up your dopamine, the connection, and everything.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that would fill it up because of what it is. But it's like, if you think of it like social media likes and stuff, you can't top it back up by just going and getting more likes or whatever, or like pressing the button for the bananas. Just something I'm interested in at the moment.
It is a very interesting point, and I do like the concept just hearing it for the first time properly. But it kind of reminds me a little bit about what my wife's dad has told me before, when you've talked about going away somewhere and you've had a really good experience. Don't try and relive that experience. Don't do something different. Like, you might be dead tempted to go back to the same place on holiday because it felt so amazing when you did that.
It won't be as good the second time.
It won't be as good the second time. I mean, if you do go back to the same place on holiday, do it for the right reasons. Like, I don't know, you want to go surfing, so you know that what you've got when you get there, you're going to be able to go surfing straight away. You know where you're going, but don't do it because of that. Like what you say, there's a dopamine spike. Don't think that like going to that same place is going to have exactly that same response.
No, because part of it will be the uncertainty, the fear, the uncertainty. Yeah. You'll be like, if you've not been to that place again, you might be like a little bit in. Like, everyone kind of gets that if you're going to a new place. I do a lot of traveling, and you'll get it all the time. I've not been to this country. Or if it's a bit scary, and then you land, and then it's kind of like, it's okay. But again, you kind of always need to be doing that to sort of push your boundaries and broaden your experience. But just lost me.
Interesting. We've gone off on one. About a topic that we know not much about. But it's worth pursuing. Yeah,
it's not quite bro science, but something that's interesting. But we talked about hedonic adaptation, which is an interesting.
We sound very intelligent talking about hedonic.
All right. So what are the biggest mistakes that you see young, up-and-coming rugby players, kids, young adults making, other than just going out and getting smashed? And I might have stole that one.
No. It depends what level, what age you're starting at. So at an early age, so now that I've finished rugby, I coach an under-10s team. I think my aim is to follow my son through the ages. So hopefully at some point I'm coaching under 16s or something if he's still interested. But I really enjoy the man management of it. And so I get the biggest buzz from a child that clearly is receptive to my inputs to them, if that makes sense. So if I feel like I'm suggesting something that they need to learn, coach them a passing technique, how to catch a ball, even something as simple as that, or it could be something a bit more advanced like sidestepping and all that kind of stuff. I feel like them children are the ones that are going to advance the most, the ones that pick it up, that listen to you, and even if they're not amazingly gifted, you know that they're going to make it because of the right attitude and behaviour. Exactly what I said with the recruitment thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest focus. I don't necessarily think that like trying to get a group of kids to learn complex moves and stuff is the thing that's going to do it. I think the management. I think that's why Alex Ferguson was successful, because he knew how to deal with people, even if it was maybe a bit more of a abrupt approach.
Yeah.
In terms of a slightly older age group, say 16s to maybe, let's say, 20 or something, so you're breaking into the breaking into open age group, wasted talent is a massive thing. The amount of times you see someone come down and you're like, oh my God, I wish I had that talent. And then they just go on, like, they're more interested in getting drunk and stuff like that. I think it's just about balance, and it's hard because the young kids, they are young people. I was that person, and you are drawn so much more into, or I was drawn into, really wanting to be part of the craft. Being on that rugby bus with these guys who are now like the young at the time, they were younger than I am now, but I felt like they were incredibly mature people, but they were crazy and entertaining and great crack, but amazing rugby players and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think feeding into that is a really good thing because it makes you want to stick at it and be really good. But I guess it's just a case of not going too far the other way, which is the case in any walk of life. It's easy to get into, wanting to get pissed all the time or whatever, drugs, or worse, not that there's much worse than drugs, but you get the idea,
Yeah, it's interesting because, having not ever been part of that team thing and, like being into rugby or football, it's something I've always envied a little bit, because it's that camaraderie of like you're like going off to war basically, aren't you? And I suppose I would guess, because I always, part of the thing with knowing a lot of rugby players is the crack is part of it, and you don't find many teetotal rugby players necessarily who take it really seriously.
Yeah, rare. Yeah,
and it's like
I don't know any.
Yeah, so I suppose that must be part of it, though, part of the bond. By going down to the games and coming back on the bus and getting pissed or whatever. I suppose a good balance would be you get a bit wild with your teammates, but then don't do it every other, all the time. But, I suppose that's a challenge, though, isn't it?
Let your teammates enjoy you when you do go a bit crazy. So they get excited, oh, he's on it. Yeah. But then, you can hold it back on other times. And there are definitely players that do that. And when them players are on it and keen to get a bit wild and loose, then it is absolutely great crack. You're in for a good night kind of thing.
I suppose, and then it's like a reward then.
Yeah,
you know what I mean,
you've
been and you've played the game, even if you didn't win the game or whatever, and then afterwards you can hang out or whatever, and it gives you something, at the end to look forward to. It's something I definitely sort of see you guys, and it's such a tight knit family, the whole rugby thing.
It's
really nice to see. It's cool.
It's interesting because as I get older, 36, nearly 37, as I get older, my injuries that I've received from rugby, several knee operations and other operations, and just horrible, shitty niggles. It's easy to sort of think, I wish I never had them. I should have, because I'm sure we'll get onto this at some point, but I'm into functional fitness now. And I think maybe if I started out my career in functional fitness, I say career, sorry, my interest in functional fitness, maybe I'd have been further than I am now, and I would be more injury free. But I would never have the group of mates I've got. I would never be coaching my son playing rugby now. Probably would not have the team skills that I've got to be able to be, what I hope is perceived as a decent manager in what I do, and be able to, guide my kids and stuff. I feel like if I never did that
As life
rugby.
experience.
It's life experience. So there's a sacrifice that, the injuries I've got now that make me feel like an old bastard. I do look back and think, I wish I never had them. I should have done something else. But yeah, it's been so worth it. I hope I can say that in 10 years' time, maybe 20 years' time, when I'm sort of 55, going on 60. I hope I'm not like totally decrepit, But that's why I do what I do now in the efforts that I do to keep that stuff at bay,
Yeah, I think even though it must be frustrating with injuries, and I've had my own injuries and stuff, and I know how annoying it is, but I didn't get them as a result of winning the final at Craven Park and stuff like that. So my guess would be you probably done it the right way. Yeah. So was it 7 knee ops you said you've had?
7 knee operations.
What's the issue?
I had 5 knee operations on one of my knees, and I genuinely think that each time I had, they were saying that there was floating gristle, like floating bone, floating gristle, whatever it might be, from like obviously cartilage being detached or whatever.
So it was like your meniscus? Or...
Yeah, meniscus tears that have kind of fully flaked off or whatever. I don't know. I don't know the details, but basically they would go in and operate and find something and take it out and be like, we found it, whoo! But I don't think they found it all. So I would be like, all right, sweet, I'm on the move again. Lock up. What's going on here? So I'm pretty certain that like there was 2 or 3 operations that were unnecessary. If the full investigation during the, not just be like, we found gold, great, let's take it out and celebrate. Like, I wish that they'd kind of been like, let's see what else it might be in there. Now, I'm not a surgeon. Maybe they did do it as thoroughly as what was feasibly possible. But yeah, it was very interesting that I'd had an MRI scan for my 4th operation on that same knee. I had an MRI scan and nothing showed up. Went to Manchester and they were like, we're going to operate. There must be something in there. It's fully locked up. And they went in there and they found a piece of floating gristle that had fully calcified. So it had been in there years, they reckon, fully calcified. And it was like 2 centimeters tall and about maybe just short of a centimeter thick, like wide. It was huge. I've got it in a jar at home. It's absolutely massive. They gave me it afterwards and they were like, that's what your problem was. And it's like, how did they go in there twice or 3 times before this and not find that? Like, it's how did the MRI scans not show it?
Yeah.
It's kind of worrying. Like, I don't want to get dark or anything, but I hope, one day when they're looking in me to find cancer or some shit like that, that they find it, and it's not this little thing that's meant to be very easy to spot and not actually find it. So
probably went on the weekend.
Yeah. So, and a couple of other operations. Interestingly, my right knee, which is the one that had 5 operations, is fine, and it's the one that only had a couple that's causing me the biggest grief at the moment. But yeah, shoulder operation, groin operation, and a few broken bones from like usually like fingers and thumbs and stuff. But yeah, they're all right.
Do you think there's out you could have done to guard against them, or do you think it's just sheer impact?
No, I genuinely believe that if I would have discovered functional fitness, I'm definitely going to give Cumbria Strength and Conditioning a plug right now. If I'd have found strength and conditioning when I was 16, rather than just going to a gym to push big weights and on these machines that are like some kids' DT project, like totally unnatural movement.
Yeah.
Then I think that my tendons, cartilage, and everything, would have been more fine-tuned to deal with these twists and turns that you do in rugby and stuff. So, I think it's going back to what you said earlier about what you would look out for with like rugby for careers and stuff. I would say functional fitness is a massive thing. it just builds up all of them fine-tuned muscles that you need to, rather than just like big muscle groups that, you know, give you size, but they don't mean much. They don't really mean much. They give you mass, which is good for impact, but not really in terms of keeping yourself on the pitch on a longer term basis, you know.
It's there's less. You've got to sort of drop your ego with that sort of stuff, isn't it? You know, it's not big biceps and the rest of it. If anyone's listening now, actually, what is functional fitness? Just
functional fitness, right? So, my sort of view on functional fitness is moving in a way that, you know, we were designed to move, but doing it under stress and strain, but the appropriate level of stress and strain. So not overdoing it, making sure that your form's as perfect as it can be. So when you're doing a squat, straight squat, squatting so that your thighs go below parallel, so you're getting a nice deep squat. And certainly not doing any of that stuff unless you have the movement and the mobility. Mobility is absolutely key. It also usually involves a decent amount of warming up with dynamic stretches. And yeah, I mean, I fully believe that it's allowed me to have the movement and strength and speed and whatever else in these last few years from doing it.
Did you use a strength coach with Cumbria? Was it Cumbria Strength, or did you learn them yourself, or what? How did you learn those movements correctly?
So basically, I can't remember how I got introduced to Cumbria Strength and Conditioning, but I did, and basically, I do remember. Yeah, sorry, it's just come back to me. So I was training with Wolverhampton Rugby, and we went for a session on a Saturday, and I realised how much I never pushed myself in the gym when I went to that session. I was like absolutely knackered after it, and also came away with a few like stretching tips. And at the end of it was like, make sure you go home and eat some, you know, get some broccoli into you, some veg, and this, that, the other. And I always thought, oh, surely a protein shake could be enough, you know. And then I went back to it, and I did classes for like 3.5 years with Matty at Cumbria Strength, and I got to the point that I've learned so much stuff. I've like, not everything. I'll never learn everything. I don't ever think that I will do, but I've learned enough to sort of say I could probably start doing my own thing a little bit around what I've learned. So I basically stopped doing the classes and started doing my own sessions. Quite a lot of Olympic lifting and things like that. And because I'd started doing my own sessions, I was really, really keen on learning. Well, no, I was really, really keen on getting my own home gym. But I was like, I'm not going to be able to do this because I get a lot of satisfaction out of being in the gym, seeing people around me, maybe competing with other people, like without them even knowing that I'm competing with other people. But COVID forced my hand. So COVID came along, and I instantly panicked, and I was like, shit, I might not be able to get back to this gym in months, maybe, who knows, years. What am I going to do? Like, I can't just do press-ups for the rest of my life. So I panicked, bought a load of gym gear, and it's totally paid off, because that fear that I might need people around me to push myself to get in the gym, I'm really, really happy. I'm proud of myself that I've managed to stick at it. And I've got a home gym that I utilise all the time. And I do go back to Cumbria Strength every now and again. I did a gym competition there last week, and absolutely love getting back in the mix. I do miss the camaraderie a little bit, but I give myself some freakish little goals to keep myself ticking over. So.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. It was the next thing I was going to come on to, because I was fortunate enough to experience the home gym this morning.
Yes, you were.
You welcomed me with "Welcome to Hell."
Open the garage door with some dramatic music. Welcome to Hell.
Yeah. So, and you've sort of kind of already touched on it, but I want to go a little bit deeper on it. How do you what are the tools in terms of mindset or whatever that you use to put yourself through hell when there isn't other people around, or where you've not got, because you are against yourself.
Yeah.
And, you know, insurance stuff's hard. You know, when you're not competing against someone else. So where's that drive coming from, do you think?
Probably as you're speaking, this is kind of on the fly. There's two or three things. One of them is, I don't know if you've got a topic on here about food and well-being and things, but I have a huge drive to be a influence on my family, you know, my immediate family, my wife, and, you know, those around me, to influence them in a positive way about, you know, working hard, and that can pay off. Then with that, the second one is actually being fit and healthy. And if something was to happen, you know, an incident, whatever it might be, that I could physically respond to that mentally as well, you know, like actually have some drive in me to be able to react to something, to look after my family or to look after myself or whatever it might need to be, or to intervene on something where a situation was happening to someone else, you know. I think that's not like a huge driver for me, but I think that being prepared for what life can throw at you is kind of something that is in the back of my mind, you know.
Yeah.
But alongside that is well-being, health and well-being. Maybe I push myself a little bit too hard for what well-being would be happy with me doing, if that makes sense. I think I probably put a little bit more stress on myself than I should do.
It's hard to
yeah, exactly. And then the other thing is, I really am driven a little bit, like, we'll go back to I'm learning a bit about myself here, the band thing. So I was only very interested in picking up the guitar when I knew it was going to something bigger than just playing the guitar. And it's a little bit like that with the gym. So I have this idea that I want to achieve some stuff, and it's not just sort of, you know, achieve 140 kilogram squat or something like that. You know, I could drive towards that, but people can do a 300 kilogram squat, you know, so it's kind of like, that's not really my bag. What my bag is aiming towards something that maybe is something unexpected for what should be my ability, or even heading towards something that no one's ever achieved, which is like maybe down the route of a world record or something. So I've kind of played with that a little bit over.
So there's because with motivation, you've kind of, it's about dopamine once again, and you sort of, it's important to obviously have an overall goal, and then other rungs of the ladder, you know, to set your progress along the way. That's probably something actually I've been thinking about recently.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I've got a goal, maybe I don't, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe not specific, you know. But yeah, certainly that I find the motivation thing a really fascinating topic.
Yeah.
Because mine can wane from time to time, and interesting because obviously you have a family. I'm single. And quite often my motivation for the gym is similar to you, you know, with, you know, well-being and stuff like that. But there's always one that's really lighting the fire beneath your ass.
Of course, yeah.
And certainly being single, it's kind of like we want to look good. And then I noticed, I was seeing someone recently, and just the first, you know, like, I started to just wane a little bit. Like, you know, that when you really need those last few reps, and you've met someone now, you probably don't need to do those last few reps. But it's interesting because in your situation, you know, you are settled down and happy,
it's
stuff like that. Have you come across David Goggins?
Yes.
Yeah. That guy's an absolute monster.
Yeah.
And obviously part of what fuels him is kind of hurt and all the dark stuff. And did you hear the thing that he said about the mixtapes he makes? So what he does is all the negative comments and feedbacks and stuff that are on social media. There's that, like famous people say, don't get involved in the comments. I don't look at them. You can't.
Yeah, ignore it.
He collects them,
Right.
and then he records them, and then he plays them back to him,
Right.
as like motivation.
Yeah.
So he uses that as fuel.
Yeah.
And then it was so that's kind of adrenaline, isn't it? It's kind of like that anger. But then some people will say that, like scientists or whatever, that adrenaline can only take you so far because then you'll fatigue.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to have like a more holistic motivation, one that's not too full of anger. And, I think it was Lex Friedman talks about like doing everything from a place of love.
Yeah.
And it's like, and when he's doing like workouts and stuff, and I'm like, I find that one hard. Do you know what I mean? To have that, like, I've kind of got some. You've got to have some sort of insufficiency, is it? I don't like. Some of there's light in the fire.
I think it's whatever drives you. So I get so much satisfaction from the gym, and my wife knows that. So when I say to her, and I try and be as accommodating as a family man as possible. So what I mean by that is I will work out at 5:30 in the morning till 6:30.
Yeah.
So that I can then get the kids, like make breakfast or whatever, be there basically as a dad. But every now and again I'll be like, right, I can't do the morning because of this reason. Maybe I just need a big sleep in or whatever. I'm knackered. So I'm going to work out tonight, or I'll throw something random in, like, I haven't worked out for a couple of days. I need to do this. And my wife is amazing for the fact that she recognizes in me I need that. So she'll let me just get on with that. Can't remember the last time she said don't have a workout. In fact, sometimes she sort of said, yeah, no, that's fine. And then I've kind of reflected saying, actually, probably a little bit selfish, isn't it? Like, you're probably going to, I'll sack it off today. And she'll be like, I'm glad you've done that because, so she, she's totally not a blocker. But she knows that I need to have that drive in me. And my drive is certainly nothing around hate.
Yeah.
Maybe after this podcast, if I have some haters, then I might try and neutralize that like Goggins. But I do it purely from I don't know. I just want to do something that no one's done before.
Yeah.
So I guess a couple of examples of that is last year I was very keen on pursuing this world record, which was the most weight lifted in 1 hour by Turkish Ghetto. So for those who don't know what this is, feel free to look it up. Jace, maybe you can put a link in the thing for what the movement is. But basically, you start lying on your back with a kettlebell upright, and then you stand up to fully standing up with the kettlebell above your head, and all the way back with one arm, all the way back to the floor. And the intention of the world record is to do that.
So you keep
1 hour.
Sorry, are you keeping your arm extended throughout?
No, you do during the work. As soon as you get it up, it stays extended. But you can put it. But I say you can put it on the floor. You've got to put it on the floor for this world record. The weight has to land on the floor,
right?
And then you get it back up, and then up, and then off you go again to the top,
right? All
the way to the bottom, and that's one rep.
Okay.
But it doesn't matter about the amount of reps. It matters about the amount of weight. So you could do 1 million.
So it's volume.
Your volume, yeah, exactly. So I was interested in pursuing this world record, and it just so happened that I trained, and I got to the point, I think, that I got to about 30 minutes at world record pace. So I worked out what I need to do, which I think was something like 4 reps every 1 minute 9 seconds with a 28 kilogram kettlebell for an hour. And I'm sure I managed like maybe 25 minutes, 30 minutes. And I was like, am I getting close? Like I've only got halfway. Like I've really got it in me. And I'll come back to this in a minute about Wim Hof's breathing technique. But basically, eventually, I managed it. Then I recorded it myself. It was unofficial because I only recorded it with one camera. You need to have a couple of cameras to do it properly. But I recorded it, and yeah, I broke the world record.
Is that available online?
I mean, I have the video on my phone right now that I can show you, but it's not available online. And the reason why is A, I don't have social media, and B, sadly, the world record has since been smashed. So the world record previously was something like 4,700, maybe 800 kilograms, and I did 4,900 and something, I think. So I broke the current Guinness World Record, but since then, someone has absolutely put it out of sight. Someone from Canada or something has absolutely put it out of sight. So, yeah, I'm not going after that.
I presume if you went into the old farmhouse, people were wearing wigs and screaming.
Exactly, yeah. So I
imagine that was less of a buzz than the World Cup one.
It was quite interesting.
But yeah,
it was quite interesting actually because someone the other day, I don't know how the conversation came up. Maybe I prompted the conversation with it being about an achievement that I've done, but I showed them the video briefly. Obviously, it's an hour-long video, so it's not very entertaining. But they were like, "I can't believe you broke a world record in your garage with no one knowing about it or anything like that." And I don't know, it just achieving it even for myself. And I don't know. Like, if I told my son, like, who's 10, I was like, if I told him I'd done that, he'd have been like, cool.
Yeah.
And that's it. No concept or context or anything about how much that meant to me and how hard it is to break a world record. So, it's strange to know what actually motivates you. And and like I say, I'm doing it again now with a different thing. And
I suppose you've got to fall in love with the pain.
The pain, yeah.
Because, there's people talk about medals being kind of one of the worst things that you can do to someone. Like, Olympic athletes, and they get the medal, and they go, oh, great, back to the track.
The journey is everything.
Yeah.
The journey is everything. Getting in there and doing 30 minutes and then thinking, oh, God, and then achieving more and more is so much, seriously, so much, like achieving it in the moment, you kind of feel like you should be happier. It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
It's a very weird thing.
You've got to set those goals to give you the little buzz, but you've also got to realise that the journey is kind of the best bit, and you've got to kind of enjoy that. I sometimes think, like, you have those days, and if you don't really do much or whatever, and you kind of like, you just wasted a day. And it's like, you'll never remember that day again because you didn't do anything or whatever. But there's something about, well, those days when if you're in pain for an hour of it, it's almost like you've extended your life because you're like, you were very present during that hour of pain. Like you cannot get away from it, can you?
Yeah.
So it's all about like reframing, and I've done like so many like different things, and then but I feel like I have to change my motivation. Like sometimes, like if I get into listening to music, then I'll stop listening to music because I don't want to get too used to it, and I try and mix it up. So some days I won't have music. I generally don't have caffeine because it's like mega early anyways. I like to wait, and then there's like, but I sometimes have like some supplements like stimulants or whatever. So I might take them, but I try and like cycle on and off and not get too used to. That's definitely my thing. Is like, right, well, I need my pre-workout. I need this, for it to, and I need my music. And I think you just got to mix it up. I used to do this one because obviously we'll talk about cold water, but I do the cold water thing every day, first thing in the morning, get in the bit.
Still.
Yeah.
Do you?
Every day.
Even though you're not videoing it?
Yeah, I've been doing it for Yeah.
Right.
So, 6 o'clock, alarm goes off. Do you know that Jocko Willing? If you come across him, he's like this former Navy SEAL guy, and I've heard that he had this like album on, well, it's on Spotify or Apple or whatever, and it's just him going like, "Get up, get to the gym, don't think about pressing the snooze button," and he's just this former Marines guy, kind of just
So you're
like,
okay.
yeah. And like, to be honest, now I've listened to it that many times, I kind of don't need it, but I'm just like, well, sometimes, some days I do need it, so I just walk around the house with it still on, and he's like, and kind of like, there's all sorts. Then it's kind of just like, well, yes, but I've used like loads of different ones where it was like, I'd say to myself, especially when it was really cold in the winter, I'd have like a mantra. It'd be like, there's a reason it's lonely. Yeah. There's a reason there's no one else out there. Obviously, it's my backyard. It'd be weird, but there's a reason it feels lonely. Like, there's a reason it'll feel lonely in your garage some mornings or whatever, because most people aren't doing it. Yeah. So, like, probably, 99% of other people, like in our age group, probably aren't doing that. Yeah. So it's like, there's a reason this is hard. Yeah. Because it's not easy. Yeah. And like, and a bit like you said sometimes, because one of my mates said to me, he was like, what's your motivation? And I was kind of like, I just want to be ready. Yeah. He's like, ready for what? And I was like, I don't know, I just want to be ready. Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know. I don't want to be like caught out. Yeah. And so
I loved the response I once got from again, Matty Green from Cumbria Strength. I mentioned that I've got this tire, and I was like, I'm going to start pulling it outside my house. And he basically said to me, but I said to him, I'm a little bit nervous that like my neighbours are going to think I'm really weird for like pulling a tire outside my house. And he said, mate, you should have this mentality. They're not the weird ones, but they're the ones in the wrong, because everyone should be doing this shit.
Your perception is probably, they probably don't think you're weird. Yeah. But yeah.
No, but it's not even the perception. It's like, no, for longevity and health.
Yeah, everyone should be doing it. Yeah.
Everyone should be doing this stuff all the time. And that's part of the reason I'm doing this like street meet next week, because I just want to invite people in to say, this is kind of what my bag is. I'll pull a tire up the street. I'll do lunges up the street, whatever it is. Pull it. I'm getting the ski erg out of the garage. I could keep it in the garage, but I want people to be like, we need to do this shit, to sort of get stronger, get fitter, and just normalize it, basically. That is the stuff in life that needs to be normalized.
Yeah.
But, it's still funny. I remember pulling the tire one time, and there's this guy who was walking a dog, and his dog literally was just looking at me, barking, and would not. Like the owner was trying to drag it away, and the dog was just sat there watching me barking, obviously thinking this is absolutely peculiar.
Yeah. No, it's a really interesting thing, because I said to you the other week as well, like you with your tire, and me with my bin, my backyard full of water or whatever. And you do feel weird, and but I don't know whether it'll be normalised to be like jumping into an old council bin every morning, but it should be, because it's, everyone's kind of got like I just feel like if I do that every day, there's surely less chance that I'm gonna have a heart attack, or do you know what I mean by that? That shock,
just inflammation in general, and all that stuff. But it's funny because my wife has been incredible. This isn't a plug to her, but in general, she's been incredible at the stuff that I've picked up and learned and tried to implement with my family and life and stuff like that. It's been very interesting over the last few months about her interest in stuff that she would have never gone after. So cold water exposure, CBD, stuff like that. She was not interested at all. Doesn't matter how much I could try and sell it to her, the latest podcast or audiobook I'd listened to. I'm like, this stuff's real, and she would never go after it. and you kind of the slow grind of the repetition that I do, that you do, that people like us do.
Like you say, it's that influence on people around you.
It starts to be like, it's not probably as weird as what you first think. And so it's
we got you into cold water.
Are you smiling because it was you?
Yeah.
Was it you? What was it? What? Go on.
Remember?
Go on. Yeah, I'm sure it was. But go on.
No, do you not remember it? Phil's wedding.
It was. It totally was.
Yeah.
It totally was.
I thought you weren't going to say that.
No. I'm 100% with you. Yeah. So, yeah.
Let's talk cold water. What's your cold water journey been? Obviously, I spoke to you at the wedding about it, and you were looking at me like, I don't know, like, this guy's mad.
Yeah.
And I was like, just try it. Just honestly, just try it. And I'd imagine I probably said, do what I do is when I first started, which was lather yourself up and then wash.
Yeah.
Then wash it off at the end. And that's how it started for me. And then obviously.
Yeah. So you obviously gave me sort of that advice, but I was fully aware of. Sorry, no, not fully aware. I was aware of the benefits of cold water, but not in a big way. I kind of thought, recovery from sport and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Me and you. It was very interesting at Phil's wedding. Everyone disappeared in the afternoon, just like after the wedding breakfast. Everyone went, and we were waiting for the night guests. And me and you were basically left. And I remember having this crack, and you explained about your experience with ice exposure, and at the time, you were sort of avoiding boozing and stuff like that. I remember you explicitly saying, if you felt like you wanted to have any beer or whatever it might be, that you would go and run a cold bath and you jump in it, and that would give you the buzz, somehow give you some kind of reason to not do it.
It's the dopamine hit. So, because I've since done research, I've listened to lots of podcasts.
Yeah.
And it's so they reckon that I was talking before about filling the dopamine pool so that there's plenty of waves available to go up and down or whatever.
Yeah.
One of the ones is cold water, and they reckon that the effects of doing the cold plunge last about 3 to 4 hours afterwards.
Yeah.
So you can imagine, the buzz you might get off, I don't know, someone liking you on social media, or do you know what I mean? Something, or having a bit of chocolate or some sugary food or whatever. It's going to be like last. But yeah, the cold water thing is, and I just came across it I've always from a young age was liked the feeling of cold water. It was kind of scary, but it was always weirdly refreshing.
I was never interested. Interested.
And I started doing it because I would notice that I couldn't get out the shower. So I wouldn't be able to get out of a hot shower. I'd spend hours not hours, but 20 minutes minimum every morning. And
expensive child.
Yeah, well, always, my mum would always be like, "Come on, you're running late for school or whatever." I just couldn't get out.
Yeah.
And again, it's that my propensity for pleasure, and again, it's dopamine again. That hot feeling.
Yeah.
And and I just do it to myself. I would just sit there with the hot tap, and I'm kind of well, I could get out, but this is really nice.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until my late 20s where I started finishing on cold, and then all of a sudden I felt so much better.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, there's got to be something in this. And this was before Wim Hof did it.
Oh,
no. But before I heard about any of the Wim Hof stuff, and it was just oh, I feel better when I do that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start doing that.
Right.
And then someone said, oh, you want to this guy called Wim Hof or whatever. Yeah. But of course, just finishing on cold kind of doesn't cut it anymore.
No.
So that's why I've got to have the plunge in the plunge in the backyard. So, but yeah, it's amazing. And sorry, going back to what you were saying, because we were talking about drinking, because I don't drink.
Yeah.
And when I was first trying to quit, I guess it's like a state shifter. You can just totally change. And I still use it now. Not necessarily as much for cravings because I don't really get them anymore. Or if I'm if I'm just in a bad mood, or, like, I struggle with rest days.
Yeah.
Really struggle.
Yeah.
Because I love the structure of like starting the day and like getting the adrenaline going or whatever, and it just sorts me out. So when the days when I need to have a rest, I really struggle. But having the cold water is like just so I've got, at least I'm getting that little buzz.
Yeah.
But it's literally the best thing to, if you want to like change your state of mind, go out for a run or go out for a long walk. But if you want something quick, cold water, it's got to be the best thing.
I fully support that, and I got that exactly what you've just said. Then I totally got that vibe of you from the wedding, and I remember thinking, right, Jace is here having a great time, not on booze. I want to, I feel like I owed it to you, based on the conversation we'd had, deep conversation, to actually give it a go. And by the way, I'm the kind of guy who would turn up at Coniston Pier and all these mates like dive in, and I'm like touching my toe in the water, and I'm like, oh, I don't know about not today, mate, and maybe go in, and then eventually being all right with it, but kind of being like, that was horrible. So when I turned the shower for the first time cold, I'm not kidding, like 5 to 7 seconds, and it was horrendous, like awful. Thought I would never want to do it again. But I was like, but I know the science says that this stuff, you get used to it, you build up a tolerance. And the more I've learned, I'm not going to, there's podcasts and stuff that you can listen to understand the actual benefits. But I would say that roughly 65 to 75% of my showers are cold showers now.
Yeah.
And I feel like I benefit massively from it. Like massively. And my tolerance for it, like you turn it cold, and sometimes you're that tolerant to it that you wonder if it's as cold as it was. You kind of like, is it
when it starts getting warmer?
Yeah,
like when this, when it gets spring, summer, you kind of like, it doesn't have the same effect.
Yeah. But the benefits I've had with that are amazing. And just while we're on Wim Hof and the cold exposure, someone just like you said you should listen to Wim Hof and like his audiobook or whatever. And I am an audiobook guy. I hate reading, so I listened to it. And half of the book I was listening to it for the cold exposure. Half of the book was breathing. So I was kind of like, ugh. Like at first I was like, okay, move on to the cold exposure stuff. And the more I listened to it, the more I was kind of like, well, all right, maybe he's onto something here. And there was one in particular moment when I was driving home from work from Barrow at the time. So it's like 25 minute drive. And it was a chapter where it was Wim Hof talking about breathing for athletic performance. And it was the anecdotal evidence that he gave was around Alistair Overeem, who is a was, maybe still is, a UFC fighter. And basically, he had adopted Wim Hof's method for breathing during training, night times, whatever during the day that he felt appropriate, but also before the event as well.
You do it in between rounds, or is it just...
Probably. He never. I can't remember him saying that, but I imagine this was a feature. But it was certainly a feature of doing it before the event.
Yeah.
And just getting that practice in. And there was a big part of me that was like, come on, like, how much can breathe? Like, you breathe as much as you need to breathe. Your body will tell you. And it was really, really interesting because I drove home that night, and it was at the time I was training for this world record for the Turkish get-ups, which we've talked about. And at the time, I think I'd done, let's say, for argument's sake, I'd done 25 minutes of world record pace. So I had like loads to go. The book said, and the evidence said, do the Wim Hof method, which I'd done a few times. I must have done maybe 10 times over the last couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks. Do the breathing and then get into the workout. But when you do the workout, also breathe deeply. So don't just do the prep, which is roughly 5 to 10 minutes. Do the deep breathing during the workout. So I was like, right, I'll do this. First time I ever tried it. And I went from something like 25 minutes to about 40 minutes. I did like another 15 minutes of that. And I'm pretty sure I only stopped because maybe like I was getting like calluses on my hand or something like that. And that is the moment that I was like, oh my God, there is absolutely something in this. So the current world record I'm training for, and I may never achieve it, genuinely. I'm totally open to the idea of not achieving it. I'm trying my best to achieve it. But I haven't yet done the breathing technique for it. So I'm quite keen when I feel like I'm fresh. So I've done something like maybe 27 minutes at it. I want to do the Wim Hof breathing before it and then during it. And it'll be very interesting if I end up being able to do something beyond maybe 35 minutes, because that will just like absolutely confirm it. And
What's the new?
So it's very similar to the Turkish get up. It's the most weight lifted in 1 hour by clean and press with a kettlebell. So basically, again, same thing. You could do a 100 kilogram kettlebell, which is impossible, but 100 kilogram kettlebell for however many reps to get to a certain amount. My intention is probably a 20 or 24 kilogram kettlebell. So I've done, like I say, about 27 minutes at it. So fingers crossed I can get close.
Awesome.
And this time when I do it, I'm not going to just do it in my garage by myself. I intend on doing it to raise money for Ulster Rugby. So
awesome.
Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, the breathing thing is an interesting one because I've sort of gone off the boil with it a little bit.
I have too. Yeah, yes.
Because I was using it, not so much before my workouts, but I was using it if I was struggling. Let's say if I was doing like especially if I was doing high intensity, I would do whenever I was breaking, 30 seconds break or whatever. I'd be doing I'd be like really trying to get it in, and I feel like it would help. And then the only thing that's sort of put me off lately, so I listen to Human Lab podcast quite a lot, and he goes into this and look at all the science or whatever. And I suppose when you're doing the Wim Hof breathing, you're hyper-oxygenating your body, and it's releasing adrenaline. That's what you get, like that buzz. That's adrenaline. So that's where that energy's coming from. And I suppose I wonder is they might argue that the adrenaline obviously eventually fatigues the system because you can only have so much adrenaline. Yeah. So what Human says is because they tested about relaxation techniques in between reps,
right?
Because apparently the best way to do to when you're taking your rest in between sets is to calm the body down to then bring it back up.
Yeah,
because you kind of got that little mini recovery window. Yeah. So then he was talking about like the cyclic sighing. So that's where you go like, right. And then they tested it in a lab. They tested that. They tested the Wim Hof method, and they tested box breathing. Box breathing.
Go on.
Right, in for 4. So it's like a box. You go in for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. Or it might change depending on your CO2 tolerance.
Yeah.
But apparently the cyclic sighing, it's like you breathe right up through your nose, like so and then you like top it up one more time, and then
right.
Apparently, but I don't know like which is the best way, because it's like yeah, if I'm looking to recover, that is kind of my nervous system is recovering, but I'm not getting the same buzz that I get off the big Wim Hof inhalations and stuff. That's something I can't seem to find an answer.
I think I'm especially when we get onto the food stuff, I'm just gonna say this: do what feels good for you. Don't try and perfect what is perfect for you. Like, we're not the world's greatest athletes, and doing something is better than nothing. And my experience is that I had a positive experience with the Wim Hof stuff. I'll probably stick with that.
Yeah.
I think I'll achieve. I think I'll achieve what I want to achieve with trying stuff like that. I think try all sorts of methods that may work for you, but I just don't think get hung up on it too much, because I think there's so much more at play. Like, imagine saying to someone who's got an absolute crap frame of mind, no motivation. Oh, by the way, don't choose the Wim Hof thing. Choose the cyclic, because that'll get you a bit further. And then they maybe the Wim Hof thing, if it is big, wide, huge, lungfuls of air, maybe that's what you need to get yourself going. There might be more stuff at play.
I mean, I was just thinking about it when you were saying then how you've used it is in preparation.
Yeah.
So because what I was doing, it was just in between sets. So maybe it's, maybe 10 minutes of Wim Hof beforehand to get that kind of buzz and the extra oxygen, and then in between the sets, just kind of deep breathing.
The thing I would say is this, right? I will do my Wim Hof stuff, and I haven't done it during this world record attempt yet because I'm still in training. I'm quite happy to introduce it quite soon.
Good though, because you'll be able to test.
Yeah, test it.
You're always doing it. Then you never know that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm going to test it, but trust me, I will do the deep breathing during the workout as best I can. But at some point, I will be fucked. And I will just be sucking in air as much as I can.
Not in any particular way.
Not in any. I will be thinking I need to do this kind of breathing, that kind. I'm literally doing it. My body will kick in and tell me how much I need to take in. Maybe I should be more structured. Maybe I should try. Today we had a workout and you were doing a lot of nasal breathing. Maybe I should try stuff like that. But I guess as long as I've got it up here that I want to achieve it, I will achieve it.
I suppose, the nasal breathing is an interesting one as well, because I try and again, I don't know if it's the best way to do it, but I try and do nasal breathing until I can, and then I've got the backup of the, to use that. But it's obviously I've built up my CO2 tolerance as well, because I never used to be able to go running and nasal breathe. When I first started trying, it was really difficult. But it's supposed to be so good for you.
How does that work from a? Because I try and base everything I do on an evolutionary basis. So the reason that Wim Hof rings true to me is if you do come up with if you do come up against a risk or a sense of danger, you are gonna suck air in, because your body is trying to get you set all the muscles ready, your heart ready, your brain ready, and stuff like that. How does nasal breathing come into the natural evolutionary process? What does it do?
Well, so for one, if you breathe through your nose, you've got hairs and stuff that filters
you're
it.
restricting your breathing. Is that what it is?
No, well, you're kind of so it feels like you're restricting it, but actually, if you once you get used to it, it's something to do with the pressure and the the difference in Human talks about it on one of his podcasts much better than I can. There's a book called Breathe by James Nestor. There's another one called Jaws, which I haven't read or listened to, But basically, we evolved to breathe through our noses. So think about chimpanzees or whatever, where they breathe through, or like most mammals, breathing through the noses. So we were meant to breathe through here because you can smell. It conditions the air. It stops.
You can get direction from smells as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like the evidence on nasal breathing is amazing. The mouth was a backup, and then so they've looked at, for example, crooked teeth. Crooked teeth is like a fairly new thing that happened.
Yeah, when you look at like our ancestors, they all got like really straight teeth, and
and a lot of that was and if you go and find these tribes in the jungle or whatever, perfect teeth or whatever, how how did they without dentists and stuff like that? But they were breathing through the noses, so it allowed the jaw to kind of like widen and have more space in between here, so there's enough room for the tongue and stuff. And they were chewing the food. Yeah, chewing on bones and meat off the bone and fiber as veg or whatever it may be, and nuts and stuff like that. And then as we got more not necessarily sedentary, but like the convenience of life, then we start having like mashed potato or whatever and just processed foods. Stuff
cooking has softened food, hasn't it? So you don't.
Yeah, exactly. So what happened then is as our jaws started to like sink in, and our teeth started to go crooked and started to go inwards, and then you have like problems with like sleep apnea. So there's all sorts of stuff. So like people with sleep apnea are more likely to be obese. They're more likely to have a heart attack. All this like stuff. So I've got mouth tape. So
I've heard about this.
Yeah, and so I'll tape my mouth up most nights, but because I don't think I need it, because I've trained myself to run with my nose now, I'm pretty much adapted. Other than when I'm speaking, obviously, but I'm pretty much adapted to nasal breathing all the time. That's why I sound like.
So do you sleep sound?
Do I sleep well?
Yeah. You're not disturbed by thinking, oh shit, I need to take a breath in from my mouth.
In general, yes. I've got a history of night terrors.
Right.
Anyways.
Right.
So I'm not like, I sleep like right now. I sleep the best I've ever slept.
Good to hear.
Like, and the biggest one for me is not drinking. If I drink, not necessarily like as a immediate response, but when I drink, through the week or sorry, not I could be 4 days later, I'm more likely to have night terrors.
Yeah,
I'm more likely to sleep badly in general. So that was the one thing. But so I might have a little summit, like little weird, like at some point in the night. It's usually when I'm drifting off. It's not as like I used to like wake up on the other side of the room, throw myself about, wake up on the floor, like punching the bed, wake up punching stuff, like wood. But now I don't. But sometimes when I do have the mouth tape on, I've woke up the next morning and I'm kind of like, it's like around my finger. And and then I'm like, oh no. And I remember, and I've woke up and kind of freaked out as well, because like, I think I've just gone like to like open my mouth and it's there, and in the middle of the night I don't quite understand what's going on, like my subconscious. But like I have my bedroom, I've got like blackout blinds. I've got a cooling thing for my mattress, so I have it like a certain temperature. I'm like, honestly, I'm gonna be a nightmare if I ever get convince someone to go get with me.
I was just gonna say, I absolutely love that. I love all of that stuff. I'm not sold on the nasal breathing thing. Got nothing against it. Like it's not like the governments are going to decide on whether we should nasal breathe or not. It's not like veganism or paleo or whatever. But I do love that you're taking steps to benefit yourself. I kind of was smiling to myself then, thinking, I wonder what my wife would think if I snuff them one day. I was like, by the way, I'm just going to strap some tape or something.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's the thing. Like, you know, when I've been dating people and then start to
find to know what you like,
and I'm kind of like, so yeah, I navigate the house at a certain time. You've probably known all this. Like at certain times of the night, I'll put head torch on with the red, and I'll navigate the house like that so that I don't get the blue light. Blue light interrupts your sleep.
Yeah, I know blue light interrupts your sleep, but what on earth are you putting a head torch on with red light for?
So that I'm not getting the blue light from the the light bulbs.
How long did you do this for before bedtime?
So normally, I mean, it's not as much at the moment because it's light when I go to bed.
Yeah.
More or less, because I go to bed at like 9:30.
Yeah.
But through the winter, I'd get to like a couple hours before bed, turn all the lights off, and I might have candles, which is really nice because I've got if you can get like a lux measurer, and if you and basically you kind of ideally you don't want your living space to have like more than like 200 lux or something,
right?
It's like a candle gives off like 10,
right,
or whatever, and it actually gives like quite. But it's all to do with like an evolutionary response, because if it's light, it's the melatonin isn't starting to be released.
Yeah, got that. Yeah.
So yeah, because I've been on my own for such a long time, I've been able to evolve my own all these responses to trying to just get the best out of.
Perfect.
But yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, hopefully one day I'll have kids and stuff, and I'll get thrown out of all these perfect routines.
Yeah.
But so red light, and I've got like one of my bulbs downstairs is red, so it looks like obviously like a brothel. It's like the red light district, but it's like functional because you can see, but it's not affecting you. You sleep with him, but I do sleep amazing. Good, like pretty much all the way through. So
excellent.